Hello and welcome to another episode of the Speech and Language Kids podcast. I am your host, Carrie Clark, speech language pathologist, and this month we are going all in on neurodivergence. We are talking about all of the different ways that we can support children who learn and think differently, and today is about motivating children and teens with ADHD. So we're going to be talking about some strategies, very specific strategies you can use to help motivate an individual with ADHD who is struggling to initiate or stay on task. So this month is all about neurodivergence, and we have a neurodivergent and thriving scorecard that you can take over on our website. And this will allow you to answer a series of quick questions about a child or teen, and we'll highlight which of the 4 main areas that they may be struggling with or maybe strengths, and then we'll give you some custom suggestions for strategies that you can use to help support them. So you can find that at slkscorecard.com. So that's a great tool to use. You can use that to kind of see where the big areas of concern are, and then you can use that information to help guide what strategies we're putting in place to support them. Okay. So one of the things that has come up on the other scorecards that we've been looking at are the executive functioning skills of these neurodivergent children and teens are really, really an area of struggle. This is a thing that really causes a lot of problems in our day-to-day life. And what we're seeing is that it comes down to this piece of being able to get an individual with ADHD to be motivated, to start the task, to stay on task. Those are those pieces that are so hard. So we're going to jump in today and look at how we can help motivate these individuals. Now, I want to start by kind of reframing the idea of motivation. Okay, so a lot of times when we're saying a child is not motivated or we're trying to motivate them, it makes it sound like, or maybe we even feel like they're being lazy or defiant. But it's really not that they're not motivated. It's that ADHD has this way of making it so that our motivation just gets blocked, right? We have trouble being able to start the task. So it looks like we're not motivated, but what we're seeing is actually that there are some executive functioning skills that are underlying our ability not to get started, not to stay focused, not to stay on task. So when a child isn't starting, engaging, or following through, we're usually looking at some specific executive functioning skills that are getting in the way. And if we can identify which aspect of executive functioning is causing problems, then we can provide specific strategies and supports to kind of work around that or work with the way that that child's brain is naturally inclined to work. So we're going to look at some different areas of executive functioning. If executive functioning is new to you, it's basically all the skills that help us get things done. It's how we manage our brain, manage ourselves, manage our time, and be able to move through our day, get things done, stay on task, remember what we were doing in the first place. All of those pieces fall into executive functioning. So if a student or a child or a teenager is not motivated or having low motivation, here are a few of the executive functioning skills that we're probably looking at, and it may be more than one, or it may just be one of these areas. First, we have task initiation. So being able to just start a task can be incredibly difficult for a child or teen with ADHD. The next one is attention or focus. Being able to focus our attention on something that is not something that we are, not a preferred task maybe, can be challenging as well. We could also be looking at some emotional regulation. If they're having a lot of big feelings about that task, if it's bringing up some uncomfortable feelings, then it can be hard to continue with that task when we are feeling overwhelmed by those emotions. Then planning and organization is another part of executive functioning that goes into this. If you are thinking about a big task and you have no idea where to start and how you would get it done, then it seems much more overwhelming and you're much less likely to follow through. Cognitive flexibility is another area that can be involved here because cognitive flexibility is our ability to change gears to adapt to change, to deal with things when they don't go the way we were thinking they were going to go. So if we sit down to do a task and it's not going well, or it's going differently than we thought it was, then that can totally shut us down as well. And then finally, we're looking at time management and prioritization. Sometimes those pieces of putting it all together and being able to manage our time, prioritize what's important and get it done can be really hard. So, oh my gosh, right? Look at all of those different things that can be contributing to this low motivation. So it's no wonder that this child or teen is struggling to get these things done. Now, sometimes the child or teen themselves might be able to tell you which of these things they're feeling. A lot of times we're not quite there, right? We're not able to be aware of what piece of it is holding us up or causing problems. And sometimes it's more than one, right? So what we can do as the adults supporting these children is we can say, okay, first let's ask. And if they know, great, we'll work on that. But if not, we can say, okay, let's take a guess. Let's start with one of these, provide some strategies. And if we're still struggling, then we can add more strategies. So if, for example, if we give some planning and organization strategies and we get a plan in place and they're still not starting or having the motivation to do it, then maybe we look at some task initiation pieces, and then the combination of the two of those is enough to get us going. So let's jump in. We're going to talk about each of those different problems, and I'm going to give you some specific strategies. So let's say that it is a task initiation challenge or an attention and focus challenge. So this might look like, I know what to do, but I just can't start. So a key insight I want you to take away here is that ADHD brains are motivated by 4 things: novelty, things that are new or different; challenge, like a game, a competition, something like that; urgency, which is why so many of us wait till the last minute to get things done. Procrastination, right? That's an ADHD thing. And then deep interest, meaning it is linked to something that you are already super passionate about. I like to say that ADHD is not a deficit of attention. It is a challenge with regulating your attention. As we all know, there are many children and teens with ADHD who are perfectly capable of focusing on the thing that they're interested in for long periods of time. It's just when we ask them to focus on something that's not one of their interests that they struggle. So knowing these things that are innately going to motivate someone with ADHD, then we can use strategies to add those things into a task that is less preferred or less fun to give a little boost to it, right? So for example, novelty, okay? Things that are novel are more exciting. They're easier for us to focus on. They're easier for us to start. And so we can just add novelty to a task by changing locations, changing the tools, the format, the timing. You can use weird little ways to kind of make it different, right? I know when I was a teenager, my parents had a giant walk-in shower, and sometimes I would go do my homework in the shower because it was weird and different, and for whatever reason, that was enough to get me started. I also played the cello, and I had to practice 30 minutes every day, which became a chore for me. And so I would go play outside. I would go play on the back porch. I would play in weird places because it was at least a way to kind of kickstart me into getting it started. Okay. Another one is adding a challenge or urgency. If you can turn it into a game or a race or an experiment. My children personally love a timer. If they are having trouble getting started, I say, "Oh, I'll time you," and they're immediately off to the races. So being able to add some sort of challenge or urgency can help. Or we can link it to their interests, right? So if we are having to do math problems, but our student really loves Minecraft. I don't know where Pinterest came from. Minecraft. Then we can say, okay, we have 3 creepers and 2 of them blow up. How many creepers are left? We can make it related to something that they're interested in. So those are all fun ways to help them with that task initiation or that attention and focus piece. Okay, what if it's emotional regulation? So this might look like I don't want to because it feels awful. This also might look like avoidance, and we might not be aware why or what they are feeling, and they may not even be aware of what they're feeling. So sometimes we have to dig a little deeper and we have to look for some patterns to give us some clues about what might be going on here. But avoidance is often an emotional protection. We are protecting ourselves from a feeling that does not feel good. So whatever the task is, it's possible that it is triggering anxiety or shame, a fear of failure, overwhelm, boredom that feels physically uncomfortable, or it could be that the task itself is physically uncomfortable. If you have a child who doesn't like to write because their hand cramps up and they don't like the sensory feeling of writing or the fine motor, then that can be a triggering emotion that they don't want to do it because it doesn't feel good. So some strategies we can use for this is identifying the emotions first. If we can help them identify how it makes them feel, how they feel that in their body, where they feel that in their body, normalizing the feeling, helping them understand that that's a totally normal thing to feel. And of course, your brain wants to avoid that. And then teaching them some coping strategies before the task. Okay, what are some things we can do to help you calm? We can do some regulation strategies, some breathing activities, breathing strategies, and then using some, if they're old enough, using some cognitive restructuring to help them focus on putting the effort in, but not necessarily the outcome or whatever it is that is stressing them out. So helping them see, okay, it's okay if this is not perfect, or just because I'm struggling with this doesn't mean I'm dumb. We can give them some ideas of how they can reframe this in their mind so that it doesn't feel so overwhelming or so bad. Okay? All right, next one, planning and organization. So a lot of times the challenge is that they either don't know where to start or they don't have a clear plan in place where they can say, yes, this is how I'm going to tackle this very large problem. Even if it doesn't seem like a large task or problem to you, it can still feel overwhelming and big to them. And so, ADHD brains struggle to hold multiple steps internally. And so a really great start to this is to externalize it. If it's all just swimming around in their brain and they're not sure how to make it a reality, then we can use externalizing strategies to put it somewhere else, okay? It's not just in your brain. We're either going to write it down, we're going to use visual aids to draw it out or make a sequence. We're going to use a checklist, a visual map. We're going to write it on a dry erase board. We're going to talk about it. We're going to do whatever it is that you need to get it out of your head and into something external so that we have a way to organize it, okay? Then we're going to break it down into bite-sized steps. Little steps. If the steps are too big, then the same problem exists. It is too hard for us to feel comfortable taking that next step. The first step of that plan should be ridiculously easy. Open the book, okay? It doesn't have to be a big step. The first step should be easy because then we've taken one step and now we feel like we can keep going. I personally, when I am writing out plans for things, I like to take the first step before I get to a stopping point, at least the first step. So if I know I have a task coming up and I'm at the end of my work time, I will say, okay, I know I need to do this task tomorrow, but I don't want to start fresh tomorrow because it's going to feel too big. It's going to feel overwhelming and I'm less likely to start. So I will just start that first step of the task the night before or the end of the day. And then tomorrow I start on step 2, which feels so much more manageable because I already started, right? So find little tricks like that to help them take that first step because the first step is always the hardest. So make the first step as easy as possible and then let them choose how to follow the plan, what that plan looks like. Is it on a whiteboard? Is it sticky notes? Is it using an app on your phone? Is it a voice note? Whatever that looks like for them, let them decide and then have a plan in place. All right, next is cognitive flexibility. Okay, so this one looks like this isn't going how I thought, so I'm done, right? ADHD brains can get stuck when those expectations don't meet reality. When we thought it was going to go one way and it goes sideways, or it's just slightly different. Maybe it's a little harder. Maybe somebody is making noise near us and we didn't expect that, and now we've shut down. That rigid thinking is what leads to the shutdown. Okay, so here's some strategies. I'm a big fan of what if games. So the sillier the better on these, unless the child is getting frustrated by the silliness. But if we say, okay, we have to do this project and it's not going the way we thought it was, now let's play what if. So we don't have to actually do any of these, but let's just get our brain thinking about some different possibilities. Okay, what if I did that project in the shower? What if I did that project outside? What if I did the project in reverse? So I did the last step first. And we can make these as silly as we want because the humor lowers the threat. If we can get them starting to think creatively about different ways to approach the problem or the project or whatever it is they're doing, then that's going to get them into the mindset of, okay, I can see that there's more than one way forward, and I'm going to go ahead and take a different path. If they are not able to do that with the actual task, then sometimes it helps to step outside the task and practice that flexibility with something else. Playing imagination games, doing hypothetical what ifs or would you rathers, not about the task you want them to do, but about something else. Creative storytelling, playing a game where they have to come up with a story or imagination, anything that gets their brain into a creative mode. And then you come back and you say, okay, now let's do the what if on this project. What if we did it a different way? What if we tried this strategy? Okay. So we want them to understand that there is more than one way forward, and it's okay for them to take a side step and say, okay, we're going to do it this other way. All right. Last one is time management and prioritization. So sometimes this looks like I want to do everything else instead. The ADHD brain struggles to see time and sequence abstractly. Okay. I like to tell people that time moves differently for me than it does for other people. I know this is not really how time works, but for me, it feels like it. It feels like things that happened 5 years ago happened yesterday, and the things that happened this morning might as well have been a different lifetime. And sometimes I think things are going to take a lot longer than they do. Sometimes I feel like I can do too many things at once. So being able to understand that and then manage it can be a lot. So some strategies we can use. We can start by zooming out to the big picture. So we can say, okay, what else is important to you today? What are the things that we have to do? Like go to school, go to activities, go to bed, eat dinner. Those things have to happen, right? What things are important to you? And then what things are important to someone else that you have to follow through on, like your homework or your chores or the things that are your non-preferreds, okay? And then we make a plan for managing all of our time and prioritizing the things that have to get done, okay? So if we say, all right, you really want to have some time on Minecraft today, but here's the things that have to get done first, let's make a schedule. Let's make a timeline. Let's figure out when Minecraft is going to go into that so you can see what you're working towards, and then we're going to make this visible so that you can see what we have to do first. You can pair the effort with the reward. So first this, then you get the thing that you want. But make sure that you're planning collaboratively if they're old enough to do that, where you're saying, okay, what are we going to do? In what order? How are we going to do it? Which of these strategies are we going to use? And then follow the plan through together and help them through that piece of it. All right. So those are my strategies for helping to motivate a child or a teen with ADHD. Just keep in mind that motivation problems are support problems. When we match the strategies to the real executive functioning skill that they're struggling with, they feel more capable, we feel less frustrated, and everyone's able to move forward with those tasks. Okay, don't forget to check out that scorecard if you would like to see what skills a specific child or teen is struggling with and what areas we can add some supports in. You can find that at slkscorecard.com. And then, of course, we have our curriculum as well, where we have additional supports, and we've got a screening tool for executive functioning. All of that is over at hub.speechandlanguagekids.com. as well. If you have any questions, leave a comment, let me know what you're thinking, and let me know which topics you would like to hear next in our executive functioning and neurodiversity season of the podcast. Thanks so much for listening, and I will see you next time. Bye for now.